I'm Filipino, and our culture is heavily influenced by the creatures that lurk in the dark. Part 2. Hey, guys. It's been a few days since my first post, and I'm writing now because we've hit a wall. Some of you gave a few suggestions on how to kill a maninangle, but Myra said most of them don't work. I'm also not sure I want to kill my grandmother because she apparently was never dead. I'll explain this later. After we found out the identity of the maninangle, we decided to go through with our first plan of expelling the chick and possibly end Lola's misery. Myra said she needed a few more days because we hadn't found an albulario yet that time. She'd already gathered most of the materials she needed. Thick rope that's been steeped in vinegar for 13 days, unrefined sea salt, water that's been blessed by a priest, and some garlic. Just ordinary garlic. We also needed to find a belit tree and douse it in the holy water. A lot of you have asked why Myra knows so much. Apparently, she's been doing this for years. When she was born, she was given a gift to be able to see things normal people could not. She refers to it as her third eye. According to her, everybody has one, but they're normally closed. She was born with her third eye opened. Her parents figured this out when she was a child, so they gave her an anting to wear for protection against evil spirits. It's the weird necklace I was talking about in my first post. It's hard to miss, since it looks unusual. It's why my mother was suspicious of her when they met. My mother has always been the superstitious one in the family. Her siblings didn't really care much for that sort of thing, so they didn't understand the significance of Myra's necklace. As for why Myra disappears in the middle of the night, she explained that she was trying to protect me. She can sense negative energy, so whenever she sensed a being with evil intentions, she would perform rituals to exorcise them. I'm sure you know sleepers are familiar with the witching hour, hence why she did this at specific hours during the night. She felt like she had an obligation to protect those around her, since she's been blessed with this gift. I told her other people are not her responsibility, and she responded with something along the lines of, "It's my God-given purpose." I've been an atheist for years now, but I respect other people's beliefs, so I decided not to argue with her on that. Now that I've answered all your burning questions about Myra, I'll get back to my update. I'm sure you're all dying to know about my grandmother. After we had everything we needed, albulario included, all that was left was the ritual. Remember my friend who would say "taupo" whenever he visited? Turns out he's pretty superstitious, so when I asked him to help us catch a maninangle, he didn't even hesitate. He seemed excited even. We'll call him Juan, since he asked me not to reveal his identity here. Mine and Juan's task was difficult. We were supposed to catch the upper half of Lola's body. I'd never even gone hunting before, so I wasn't too sure if I'd be able to capture a flying monster. Myra assured me that the sea salt and garlic would weaken her and we'd just have to tie her up with the vinegar-steeped rope. Yes, just tie up a maninangle upside down on some supposedly magical tree. Sounds simple enough, right? We used blood to lure my grandmother to a clearing by the belit tree. I heard what sounded like humongous wings flapping around and I knew what I had to do. Seeing her like that again was heartbreaking. Lola used to have such a warm and welcoming face, but now it was distorted and almost didn't even look like her. Her complexion was almost gray, her eyes were bloodshot, and her pupils were dilated. The veins in her face were black and protruding, as if they could pop out and come alive at any moment. Her mouth looked too big for her face, with long and razor-sharp teeth. The skin around her mouth was red, like it had been irritated from stretching too far beyond it was supposed to. Her wings looked like that of a bat's, but much, much bigger. At the end of her torso, I could see her guts spilling out, barely hanging on to the rest of her. Even from the sky, I could smell this horrible stench coming from her. It was a mixture of a metallic scent, presumably the blood of her victims, and rot. I didn't want to look, but I had a job to do. As she descended, I threw the sea salt and crushed garlic mixture at her and she fell to the ground. And I quickly worked on tying her up. Her screams were horrific. It was a combination of something deep and raspy as well as her own voice. She looked at me and I thought I saw a moment of recognition in her eyes. "Please, Apo. Do not let them do this to me," my grandmother pleaded. "I'm sorry, Lola. It has to be done," I said weakly. Her face contorted with rage. Terrible, horrendous rage that I could feel reverberating throughout my entire body. It was unnerving. "Wala ka talagang kwenta." She snarled at me. For the non-Filipinos reading this, she basically called me a worthless piece of shit. I tried to focus on the task at hand instead. We hoisted her upside down on the tree as she screeched. She would alternate between sounding helpless and sounding completely deranged. Her unsettling behavior combined with the revolting scent made me sick. But I had to help her. The albulario walked toward us, carrying some concoction he had cooked up to supposedly make my grandmother vomit out the chick. "Please, stop." A familiar voice yelled out, interrupting our ritual. It was my mom. She was running toward us, clearly out of breath. She was never very athletic. "If you do this, you will kill her," Ma explained. "Kill her?" I thought she'd been dead for years and somehow got turned into this monster, I said, confused. "You don't understand, Anak. Your Lola, she was very sick. I did what I had to do." My mother was screaming at this point. "Ma, what are you saying? The chick, it healed her. If you do this, she'll just be human again. She'll just be sick again. She won't survive." Ma then went on to explain how she and her siblings faked my grandmother's death. The chick has been passed down to generations as a family heirloom. Lola was never interested in becoming a maninangle, but she kept it for future generations. I don't really understand her reasons for this, but then again, I don't understand a lot of the things people do in the province. When Lola got sick, they urged her to eat the chick to regain her strength. She refused, saying she wanted to die as a human being. That she didn't want to mess with that kind of black magic. But her children were not ready to let her go. So, they forced her to eat it. My mother was the only one who knew about the chick at first, since it was to be passed down to her, as she was the firstborn daughter. When she told her siblings she knew of a way to save their mother, they told her to do whatever it took. The grown-ups were all in on it. They told everyone in town that my grandmother had died, to avoid suspicion. They hid her in my uncle's house during the day, and allowed her to go off to feed at night. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt betrayed. The family I had known and loved were not the people I thought they were. They almost seemed more terrifying than the monster hanging by the tree. For context, all our houses shared the same backyard, and she would leave the lower half of her body there when she went out to hunt. Filipinos don't normally leave their family home, but as my uncles and aunts had more children, it got too cramped. They decided on a compromise and built houses on the same property instead. Lola had a closed casket funeral. Except there was nothing in there. Me, my siblings, and my cousins had no idea. At the time, we just thought her condition had rendered her corpse to look unpresentable. We didn't know we were mourning an empty coffin. I was angry, hurt, and disgusted. I'm sorry, I didn't know what else to do. There was a way to save her and so I did, my mother said. Save her? You didn't fucking save her, you blatantly went against her wishes. I yelled back. Language, Anak. Screw that. You're all fucking sick in the head. Myra decided to chime in and try to calm me down. Luis, I think we should save this for another night. Your mother might just need time to grieve and accept the situation. Are you actually siding with her on this? I couldn't believe what she was saying. We already have everything we need, and catching a maninangle isn't exactly a walk in the park. I'm not siding with her. I just understand what it's like to lose a loved one. Just give her more time, okay? I looked at her with disgust. I know what it's like to lose a loved one, but there is absolutely no justifiable reason for what my mother and her siblings did to my grandmother. If you freaks want to let this abomination go free and feed on innocent people, I'm not going to be a part of it. I stormed out of there. I don't know what they did with the maninangle, but I'm assuming they didn't go through with the ritual. I locked myself in my bedroom that night and haven't spoken to anyone since. Myra has been trying to talk to me, but I didn't want to see her. She would stand outside the door and ask me to let her in so we could talk. I never responded to her. I'll leave some food here in case you're hungry. When you're ready to talk, just let me know, she said. I heard her set a tray down on the floor and walk away. I'm not sure what I should do at this point. Am I overreacting? Am I being needlessly difficult? Should I just let Lola be a maninangle?